Hi Jane, well we've got more sunshine to come for most of us over the next few days, so we've got more of these blue skies to be enjoyed certainly through the course of the afternoon for most of us. Now yesterday was the warmest day of the year so far, with temperatures reaching 21.2 in Kinlochew in Highlands, Scotland. Why were the Highlands so toasty? Well, that was down to the mountains themselves. You see, for most of us we had brisk winds, but those winds blocked those mountains blocked the winds from coming in, and so the sun's energy was concentrated, allowing temperatures to surge. Whereas for most of us, those brisk winds meant that the sun's energy was spread out a bit more and temperatures didn't get quite so high.
Hello there, good afternoon. Following the blue sky, the sunshine and the 18 degrees Celsius that we saw yesterday, today is a little disappointing. There's a lot more cloud around, it's cooler and there's a brisk easterly wind blowing too. It's feeling quite blustery in places. But this morning we did start off with plenty of blue sky and sunshine, as recorded by our weather watcher here in Greenwich, and again in Tottenham, some lovely blossom there. But it's since clouded over. Here's Victoria Park, plenty of cloud, and we'll be keeping those layers of cloud as we head through much of the rest of the afternoon.
Anyway, there is a bit of pollen, I'm afraid, in the air, and we've started to do the pollen forecast. Thought we'd give you a little bit of info about it and a few tips of how to deal with it. Let's take a look.
It's quite enough watching other people sneeze, never mind doing it yourself. But hay fever can turn spring sunshine into a sneezy, nose-tickling, eye-watering day. 1 in 5 of us have it, and it's often at its worst in the morning and evening.
The pollen is released in the early morning, it's carried up in the atmosphere as the air warms, and then it can often go very high during the middle of the day, and then as the air cools again in the evening, that pollen will drop down again and come to the level in the atmosphere that we're breathing it in.
There are 3 types of pollen. The tree pollen comes first, then grass, which most sufferers are allergic to, and then weed pollen.
You might think hay fever would be better in cities such as London, but it's not the case. Plane trees, for example, can ruin a nice walk to work, as Duncan has often told me. Then there's tall buildings, which can prevent pollen from escaping, and there's pollution too, which it's thought could make hay fever worse. And did you know that the weather can help or hinder too? So if there's very fine drizzle, that can suspend the pollen in the air at the height we breathe it. But if it's windy, it'll blow the pollen away. And if there's normal rain, it'll wash it away. Though admittedly, that's not a great choice, is it? Rain or hay fever. So what can we do to alleviate the symptoms?
So taking your antihistamines or whatever medication you prefer, taking it in advance of the stimulus is the best way to avoid reacting. Maybe don't hang your washing out during those peak times. Give your dog a brush down before it comes in.
On the upside, pollen creates the dazzling array of colour we see every year, but it can make some of us really suffer. Hopefully, with these tips, you might just enjoy your spring and summer days a little more.
So if you want to catch our pollen bulletins, they're going to be after the lunchtime news and the late news, and by mid-May they'll be after the programme. I hope your Tuesday went well. I love this photo of these gorgeous baby herons. They look like little emu puppets, don't they? They're so sweet and spiky. Now, our weather tomorrow is fairly cloudy for a lot of the day, but it does brighten up later. Should have a nice evening. And then we've also got a bit of a cool easterly breeze, though. So if you're out of those sheltered spots and in that, it will feel quite chilly. But it is also turning more unsettled as we go through the week into the latter part of Thursday and Friday.
Good evening. 21 degrees today in the Northern Highlands. This is one of the images sent in earlier on today from one of our weather watchers, and you can't really pick out anything in the way of cloud in the sky. That's Durness in Highland. It was a very different story though to the east of Scotland for Edinburgh, where we had the Har and the Fret pushing into our east coast off the North Sea on the easterly wind, and there in Eastbourne more cloud. This area, this little weather feature that had come across from the continent kept things chilly across much of the southeast of England. Only 10 or 11 degrees as highs. Easterly wind though still with us, still feeding that cold air in off what is at this time of year, of course, a chilly North Sea. 8-9 degrees in the North Sea if you're brave enough to get in. Pull the air across the UK directly from there and around the coast. That's where our temperatures will sit around the 9-10 degree mark. Further west, with some sunshine, with some shelter, we could still be looking at the mid-teens on Wednesday.
Hello. Well, we certainly had a decent start to the day with plenty of morning sunshine, but the afternoon turned pretty cloudy for a time, We even had a few light showers falling to the south of London.
Now, the brief blast of warm weather yesterday has helped our plants and trees spring into life. So where's Alex? Kew Gardens, of course. So loads of trees and flowers coming out then.
Good evening, Mary. Yeah, that's right. However, I have to say at the moment here at Kew Gardens, it is pretty windy. There is certainly a chill in the air, and that's because we've got an easterly flow at the moment, and it is coming off the North Sea, which is quite cold. But thankfully, we do have some beautiful blossom here, as you can see, and that certainly has lifted spirits here today, because it's been quite grey across much of the southeast of the UK. However, away from here, it's been pretty fine, and as you may have heard, Scotland has seen 20 degrees plus today, so another warm day. Wouldn't be surprised if it was somewhere near there. But here at Kew Gardens, as I say, a bit cooler, but the blossom is in full bloom at the moment, and I've been catching up with a few of the gardeners who tell me that actually a cooler spring is helping the blossom last longer.
Well, to hold blossom on a tree, ideally, cool weather is best, which I know isn't quite the same for human comfort, but cool weather and relatively still days. The windier it gets, and if there's wind and rain, that tends to knock the blossoms off the trees, of course. So we've been quite lucky. We haven't had a lot of that sort of weather.
Well, staying with trees, many of us up and down the country have been suffering with our allergies. Pollen is very high at the moment. It's actually tree pollen which is affecting many hay fever sufferers. So out towards the western fringes, it's been very high today. It is going to be very high again tomorrow. High across other parts as we push out towards the east, dropping to moderate in the far north. So you have been warned. Well, as we head through the next few days, it does stay relatively settled, so dry for many of us. Pleasant spells of sunshine where it does pop out, and just watch out for the odd shower here and there, really. Well, that's it from Kew Gardens. I have to say the blossom's still looking pretty good, but this wind is starting to blow just a few of the petals off. Back to you.
All right, Alex, thank you.